Welcome to Instant Deck Techs. The aim of this series is to give you a short, concise guide on how to build a certain deck. It won't cover every card, but we'll go through all the categories and go over the types of cards needed to make the deck work. Any card mentioned will be down in the description below. The commander of this deck is Chatterfang, Squirrel General. It is 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary creature, Squirrel Warrior. It has Forest Walk, and if one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens, plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, are created instead. It also has pay a black and sacrifice X squirrels. Target creature gets +X, -X until end of turn. This deck will be built as a token deck with an Aristocrat subtheme. Chatterfang being able to double all our tokens is really powerful. I know you only ever get 1/1 squirrels out of it, but that doesn't matter, as most of our token makers will be making 0/1s and 1/1s anyway. The fact that Chatterfang has a built-in sack outlet as well makes him the perfect general for an Aristocrat build, especially when that sacrifice outlet comes in the form of some removal. There will of course be a squirrel subtheme in the deck as well. These cards will mention in all the relevant sections, but you may need to accept that some of these fairy friends will need to lay down their lives for the greater good, so I'd also recommend keeping an eye out for sacrifice outlets as well. First up is the token makers. What we want is a mixture of cards that make us tokens immediately and cards that can make us tokens reliably turn after turn. By having both, it means that we cover all our bases and should allow for some really explosive turns where we go from a good board state into a game-winning board state. Deep Forest Hermit being a lord to our squirrels is also very good, and because games of Commander can go long and grindy, I like Izoni as a late game instant board state. At a minimum, you want 8 token makers in the deck, but ideally I'd be looking to push that up to 12 or maybe even 16. To go with our token makers and our commander, you can run some more token doublers. These aren't essential and shouldn't put you off building the deck if you don't have them, as they can be quite pricey. Chatterfang already does a pretty good impression of these cards, but what they do allow you to do is have some really strong powerful turns, so if you have them, they are worth considering. Moving over to the Aristocrat Effects, you're looking for things that drain out your opponents when our tokens die. This will be one of the main ways that this deck can win. As its commander, effects that say each opponent will generally be better, and you're looking to run between 4 and 6 of these effects. We'll go over some other ways of winning later, but having the ability to drain out our opponents after an attack will be very nice, and will also make combat math miserable for all of your opponents. For our 8 bits of card draw, we're looking for things that interact with the themes of the deck. So Village Rite, Skullclamp and Bontu all interact with the Sacrifice theme, and will also synergize nicely with our Aristocrat effects. Then there is Idol of Oblivion, which synergizes with all the tokens that we're making. And then there is Ravenous Squirrel and Toski, which are obviously squirrels, so that synergy merits their include as well. Let's talk about our ramp. In these types of decks, I prefer them to be based on creatures rather than mana rocks or things like rampant growth. The reason for this is that creatures synergize way better with the deck, and can give you that extra push you need when you're looking to drain out your opponents with things dying. The base of the ramp should include at least 8 creatures that either add mana or get lands from the deck. Once you have those as a base, you can start looking at things like Cryptoth Rite, Ashnods and Phyrexian Altar, and then Black Market. These are great at synergizing with the deck and give us a load of extra mana, but they can never replace the 8 previous cards, they always need to be played in addition to. For targeted removal, I'd first start with effects either on creatures or ones that make creatures. Pest Infestation is quickly becoming a green staple and will be especially good in this deck. Like with the ramp, I would want as many effects on creatures as possible, but if your meta is a bit more combo-y, having some ways of interacting at instant speed becomes a must, so things like Putrefy go up a notch. For the Boardwipes, green and black don't really have too much of a problem killing things, so run the best ones that you have available to you. Azuri's Predation is pretty nice in this deck, as obviously it makes tokens, which means we then make squirrels. Because our commander is actually pretty strong, it won't take people long to try and kill it. To keep chatters around, we can run some protection effects to make removing it a little bit harder. In a token deck like this, I do like Asceticism due to the protection that it gives our board. You're generally looking between 2 and 4 bits here, depending on the amount of removal that's played in your meta. If our opponents do end up killing our stuff, we can run some Recursion effects to bring them and some of our key cards back from the graveyard. I'm a big fan of repeatable effects, like Journey to Eternity and Merrin, but then I'm also a sucker for Victimize and a Dread Return, mainly due to the ability they give to sack creatures as well. Similar to the protection, run more if your playgroup runs more removal. Okay, let's move over to some ways of winning the game. As this is a token deck, as well as an Aristocrat deck, we can run some token deck win conditions as well, in the form of Beastmaster Ascension and the Craterhoof variants. These combined with all the drain effects we have, should end a game of Commander pretty damn quickly. Then for some more squirrel-based ways of winning, you can look at these Anthem Effects. Obviously ask your playgroup before playing Earl of Squirrel, because it is silver bordered, and probably actually insanely good in this deck, as it turns all of our other tokens into squirrels as well. For a more direct hit to the face Wincon, you can try making the biggest lad possible with Squirrel Mob and also Croson Beast, which apparently is a squirrel. And then to add to our squirrel count, we can run Maskwood Nexus and Conspiracy. Giving all of our tokens the effect from our lords will obviously be very good, and will help add to the synergy and really tie the deck together nicely. And then, if you're running those and you really want to see the world burn, you can run Coat of Arms to really push things over the edge. Death by 10,000 Fairy Fists and all that. Okay, moving over to utility lands, Swarmyard will be very good in the deck, as it'll be able to regenerate our commander and a good selection of our creatures. After that, I'm a big fan of lands that let us sack our creatures for value, as it means it's way more likely that we'll see one of these effects when we're playing, and will let us be able to trigger our Aristocrat effects whenever we want to. The rest of your mana base will be very dependent on what you have available to you. We've recently released a video with some advice on building a deck with a budget mana base, which might be of help. Until next time, please like, share and subscribe, and let us know down in the comments if there are any commanders you'd like to see a deck tech on. Thank you very much for watching.